非常好。Andrew, you may share on Facebook now.
Okay, we're on Facebook now.
All right. Okay. Excellent. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my friends. It's great to see you all every Friday. Thank you so much.
Almost.
Welcome to ABF Online Talk, Passion for Birding. Last week, we learned personal birding experience in Taiwan from Mark Wilkie, Paul Schaffner, and Scott Persner. And we have so many participants, audience on Zoom and on Facebook. And tonight, Kuan-Chieh Hung will tell us about the whole picture with some details about birding hotspots in Taiwan. It's quite interesting. When Maya posted it on Facebook, immediately within 24 hours, it's been shared 18 times. We are very happy about that. So, Kuan-Chieh Hung, aka Chuck, earned his MS degree from Taiwan Normal University in 2009. A very young person. We're very happy, we had young fellows with us in the field of birding. And he's a knowledgeable ornithologist, a good field researcher, and he used to work for Wild Bird Society of Kaohsiung and Taiwan Wild Bird Federation. And now he's a professional English-speaking bird guide in Taiwan, and a top one, I tell you. So, my friends, let's welcome Chuck.
Hello, thank you for introduction. So let's start. So I share the screen now.
Yes, please.
Can you see the screen? Okay.
Very good. Very good.
Okay,
Very
so
nice. Yes.
Today I'll give a short talk about birding hotspot in Taiwan. So my name is Kuan-Chieh, and somebody call me Mohan in Chinese, call me Hong Guan. And I'm the founder and the owner of the website on Bird Guide, but I didn't update the content. It's very frequently in this year, yeah, because we have no trip to guide now. Okay, so and because last week and the talk of Asian Bird Fair has introduced about birds in Taiwan. So here I just give some briefly introduction of the landscape and the bird here. So in Taiwan, we have very high avian and landscape diversity. So like this one, we have the very high mountain, and Jet Mountain, or we call Yushan, is 3954 meters. It's higher than the Fuji Mountain in Japan. So we can have some very alpine forests, and we can have some lakes. We have a lot of the wetland, and we have some offshore island where it's good for birding. So according to the latest climate checklist, now we have 30 endemic species and about 54 endemic subspecies. So there'll be more because it's an island with high mountains. So the target of this kind of the island for international birders will be endemic, of course. So for the breeding endemics, they are all breeding birds. So they stay in Taiwan all year round. So among all the 30 endemic species, only very few, they will become very shy in winter. The one become nearly impossible is the Taiwan bush warblers. They disappear in winter, and sometimes they start to sing in October and November, January in the bush, but they never show up. But if you visit in Taiwan in cold winter, you only miss one. You can get the remaining 29. So for the traditional and birding tour organized by British, the high season for them is spring. The reason is, and it is between May and June. The reason is because during early May, is the timing for the breeding fairy pitta arrives. They breed in Taiwan from late April to June, but the black-faced spoonbill, they leave Taiwan in May. They are wintering birds. So the British birders, they keen to see both and the superstar species. So they always come to Taiwan in late April to May and sometimes June to June. But now the good news is because we have more and more black-faced spoonbill in Taiwan, even during summer. So if we organize any trips in June or even July, the chance we find the spoonbill will be higher and higher in these years. And another high season in winter is November to February. It's because after November, during November, most of the wintering birds settle down in Taiwan. And like this one is a brown-headed thrush. It's a bird where we can only find it in Japan, in Taiwan. They are kind of a thrush. They love island. They don't like the mainland China side that much. Even in Kinmen, this bird will be rare than other thrushes. So this is the season of the bird of the year. So from January to December, for the breeding endemic, they are breeding bird. They stay in Taiwan all the year. But in summer, we can have the fairy pitta in May. And in June and July, we can have the Chinese return. And we will introduce that later. And the spring migration season in Taiwan starts from about March to May. But and when we have the longer autumn migration, the waiter started first, and then the raptors comes, and then in October and November, the passerines comes to Taiwan. So in Taiwan, for local birders, only June and July is boring. And for the wet season, we have kind of the plum rain in spring, but due to the global warming and the weather become more unpredictable, and how to predict when it will rain. I guided a company and some bird, but sorry, they close. And some bird, they always visit Taiwan during late April to early May. And in the past 4 or 5 years, they encounter the plum rain for only once or twice. And in autumn, in autumn we have the typhoon. The typhoon season started usually from August to October, and typhoon usually comes very fast and goes very fast. So if you are very lucky or you are very unlucky to encounter a typhoon, you will only lose maybe 1 or 2 days. And sometimes if we happen to go bird watching in some migratory bird watching sites, and we can expect we can get some good species. So in Taiwan, we also have a very good and very active eBird community. So this is the global state of the eBird. By species, it's not fair to compare about that. How can we fight the species number with Colombia? But if we take a look about the effort, Taiwan always submits about 7 to 8 number of the checklists among the world. So during the global eBird event like the big day in May, big day in October, we always in about number 8 to number 10, and usually around Costa Rica. And now we have record about 640 species in Taiwan, and the number of the checklists and eBirders increased steadily. And so it also indicates the Merlin app, and where Cornell development, and we can use the Merlin to figure out where we can go birding and what does this bird look like, and in this location, what kind of bird can we expect to find. It works very well in Taiwan. So if you don't want to hire a bird guide, you want to find the bird by yourself, Merlin can help you a lot. And today's topic is about the hotspots of the birding hotspot in Taiwan. So let's take a look of the national scale hotspot in Taiwan in eBird. So, and there are some places I underline with the red. It's the places, and I will use if international birders have time, and they are all located in the North Shore. And most of the birding hotspots are good for migratory birds. or for shorebird, for waders, and because for local birders, and breeding endemic, they are easy. So we are always looking for some migrants and some rare wintering birds. And among the top 15, we have 2 islands. Is the Dongyin Island, and where Paul introduced the week. And recently, and there are lots of the birders that invest their time in Penghu Island. It's an island between China and Taiwan. And it's a flat island and with a good infrastructure. It's also good for migratory bird in spring. If Mazu Dongyin is too crowded, it's also a good place to visit. And all the rest, they are good for migratory birds or shorebirds. So, for international birders, what they want are the endemic and breeding endemic. So this breeding and endemic, usually they stay in mountains. So in Taiwan, we have some key mountain areas, and Daxueshan is this area we have to visit. It's a base site for endemic, so it's 4. And the rest is Hehuanshan, or we call Tarugo National Park. We can drive all the way down to the east coast, and we can find the alpine birds easily compared to Daxueshan. And if we have more time, we'll visit Alishan, or we call Yushan National Park, and to make up the endemic bird we miss. And another important part of the birding are wetland and islands. So usually the highest priority is Asian endemic shorebirds like the black-faced hornbill. So we always find them in the southwest coast. If we have time, we will visit Lanyu for some birds close to Philippines, but it's easier to visit in Taiwan. So if we have much time, if we have more time, we can go to the north coast to visit Jinshan, Yeliu, try to catch some East Asian migrants in spring or in autumn. So, and for birders who are new to East Asia, usually we can get nearly 200 or 180 to 220 species in 2 weeks in spring. So among them, and we can get most of the endemic species and a good number of the endemic subspecies. And for birders who are new to East Asia, and the best number I heard is they get about 150 species lifers. So if any international birders and they are new to East Asia, Taiwan will be a good start. So how long should you spend? So if you have only 2 to 5 days, we should spend all of our time in the best place like Daxueshan, and we can see at least 50% of the endemic species and a good number of the endemic subspecies. If you have in about a week, we can visit and the wetlands to get some shorebirds. If you have two weeks, we can try to collect as many as endemic species and subspecies we can, and we can also collect some migrants and shorebirds, and we can also remote the islands, the Lanyu Island. So in the one-day city tour, no matter it's in Taipei or in Kaohsiung or sometimes in Taichung, and we can find some good rural birds. And depends on the places. Like in Taipei, we can drive to about 300 to 400 meters to get some birds in the foothill. And this is the season of Taiwan, and the weather of Taiwan will be cold but not very cold. It will be hot, but it will be hot for others. And we can pick you up in the hotel and drop you off in the hotel. So this is and in this page are some endemic species which we can find in urban parks. Barbets, Taiwan scimitar babbler, British thrush, especially in Taipei, and the Taiwan blue magpie. And also the Malayan night heron is a very interesting bird. It's common, it's widespread, but it's very common and easy in Taiwan, but it's difficult in Malayan area. And the brown-headed thrush I mentioned, sometimes in urban parks we can find them if we have good mature fig trees. And in Taipei, actually you can try on your own with subway or bus. So this is the eBird icon. And if you have interest, this location you can Google, and it's a eBird birding hotspot. So in Taipei, you can, of course, the most famous bird watching site for international birders will be the Taipei Botanical Garden, and Wulai and Yangmingshan National Park is in the middle of the Taipei city. And if you have vehicle, you can drive to Shimen Reservoir. And because the best birding site in mountains are in central Taiwan, so sometimes we will just pick up the clients in Taoyuan Airport and drive down to Daxueshan and to Hehuanshan and to Alishan and go to Lanyu and go back to southwest coast. And in the end of the tour or in the beginning, we'll send you back to Taipei City. Of course, you can use Merlin. So if you have limited time, about 2 to 4 days, we will recommend you to spend all your time in Daxueshan. Of course, the targets are endemic. The elevation can be as higher as 2,600. It can be cold in winter, but not to freeze. And the wet season is depend on the season. And the target there will be the pheasants and partridge. And it's possible to see all of them. The Mikado pheasants, the Bryant swinhouse pheasants, the Taiwan partridge, and the bamboo partridge. And also, all the Daxueshan is the best place for the babblers, like Huamei, like the white whisker leopard thrush in the alpine area, like rusty leopard thrush, rufous crown leopard thrush, or Leotrilia, Morrison furvita, black necklet scimitar babbler, and barwing, and beautiful Euhina, sepia, and very tiny and shy capuin, and furvita with a brilliant and white iron. And we also have some teeth and European birders are familiar with. And the special one is a chestnut belly teeth. It's very locally common. Only in Wulai, but in winter in Baxianshan, Guguan, Huisun forest area, and Shimen Reservoir, we can find them. In the rest of the area, they are nearly impossible. And the color bush robin and the yellow teeth are also kind of the beautiful teeth and robins. And also we have some new species and become endemic species in this decade, like the island thrush. It's easier in Daxueshan in winter because the mature seed will lure them. And the next season will be about May and June. Sometimes if you are lucky or if we work very hard, we can find their breeding places. And the white-brow shortwing become Taiwan shortwing recently, and in Alishan area is easier in Daxueshan. And the most recently, the Taiwan bullfinch comes from the gray-headed bullfinch, this one. So it's always worth to collect all the endemic subspecies in this kind of the small island with high mountains. And for mammals, usually we can see Taiwan's raw in kind of the goats, and for Formosan rock macaca. And in Daxueshan, it's also easy to see the flying squirrel, especially the beautiful one. We call it white faces or red and white, 白面鼯鼠, and they occupy the tree holes. So sometimes we can find them during the day, but at night it's very easy to see them, and every bird loves them. So go back again. The best for endemic are Daxueshan, and we can spell as DAS or DAX. In Taiwan, the English spelling is very quite confusing. And nearly Daxueshan, there are some nearby sites like Guguan, Baxianshan, and Huisun is a place we will combine together. And the other area will be Hehuanshan, and we can go to Wulin. The highest place we can drive is about 3,200 meters by driving. You don't have to hike. And Qingjinfang and the Ruian River. And it's famous as the Blue Gate or Pipe Trail in back to early 2000. It's the only place we can find the Mikado pheasants in early 2000, but now the Mikado pheasants are easier. In Alishan area is the highest place, the Yushan Nature Park or Tataka or Alishan Forest Recreational Area is also good. And these three mountain areas are for endemic. So if we want to collect all the endemic, we have to go to, and if we still have limited time, we'll go to Daxueshan and Hehuanshan or Alishan and Kending. Why we want to go to the south of Taiwan is because the silent bobble. This silent bobble is endemic not only to Taiwan, but also endemic to eastern and southmost of Taiwan. So you have to go to Kending, go to the east coast, or go to Hualien, then you can see this. It's very similar with the common live-vented, or we call Chinese bobble, but it's only exclusive in eastern and southern Taiwan. And in Nanyu on the way, because we have to take ferry from Kending or from Taidong, you will definitely see it. It's common in the range, but you have to go to their range. So if you want to see everything, and we will spend all our time in Taiwan and we in Nanyu as well. And it's a traditional places we have to visit. In Nanyu Island, the best bird we can find is the elegant scarp owl. It's an endemic species in Nanyu, and Nanyu is about the southmost range of East Range, and we can find another race subspecies in Okinawa in Japan, and another subspecies in the eastern islands belong to Japan. And also in Nanyu, we can find the Japanese parasite flycatcher. They breed there in summer. And this is another photo of the elegant scarp owl. So, and in my personal experience, I can find the elegant scarp owl during the day about 2 out of 3 or 4 times. And it's a bird very close to Philippines. So if you come from Philippines, maybe you don't need this. And in Nanyu, it's also good for cultures. And we have local Yami people, or we call and live there. So if we have time, we will always ask the local indigenous people to introduce their culture for us, and we can visit them by ferry. So on the way and back, we can find some seabird. And there are some regional known rarities, and it's a black-faced spoonbill. They are still endangered. Even the number increases year by year, but Taiwan is still the main wintering site of the world, and they come in September. And most of them live in June, but during summer, some of the young birds, they don't go back to breed, they stay in Taiwan. And we can also find another regional rare East Asian waders, like the Chinese egrets, still categorized as a BU in IUCN list, and the Asian dowitcher. And in spring, in August to November, and depends on the season. And this is a bird we are try to look for. And another rare terns and gull are Chinese Christern and Saunders gull. And Saunders gull, they come in winter. And Chinese Christern, they breed in Matsu Island, belong to Taiwan, but is very close to China. They breed in June and July. So for the wetlands, usually we'll visit Budai or Aogu. And recently, Jiangjun is famous because we found there's at least 2 Norman's green shank. It's still very rare and endangered, wintering there, and somebody saw these birds this week. They are still here, and we are protecting them, not protecting the wetlands, not becoming the solar power plant. So they are good wetlands. And for the Chinese Christern, they breed in Matsu, so they are critical endangered, and in the world we have less than 100 individuals. So they breed in late June to early August. So they look like the Great Christern, but has a black bill and has a more orange bill and black bill tip and paler upper wing. So this is a Chinese Christern in distance, and this is a Great Christern. So sometimes we can only see them in very, very far away. And sometimes if we are lucky, we can find them in Taiwan, in southeast coast. And this winter and last spring, nobody found it, but recently we are good at people start to take care of this rare bird in Taiwan. So we initiate that in CCT. So I have to be honest, in the past 6 years in my full-time guiding, only one client, he requests to see Chinese Christern. The reason is you have to spend 3 days, 2 nights at least to get one lifer. And just like Paul introduced, we have to take ferry from Taipei to Dongyin for 8 hours overnight, and another 2 hours to Nangan, and 150 minutes to Beigan. And in Beigan, you have to hire a private ferry to the island they breed. Or in Xiju, they breed in the islands, not very far away, but we cannot get close, and you can only see it in the scope. And if you are lucky, they can fly in front of you to take shower, but it's very difficult. And also in spring and in summer is the fog season. So even you take flight from Taipei to Nangang and take ferry to Beigan where they breed, you have risk. The flight can be canceled anytime. And in summer, you cannot get any extra birds like the migrants, but you can get endemic. So the cost to see this global endangered bird is quite high. And just like Paul introduced, and the islands, Mazu Island, especially Dongyin, is good for people who want to see more East Asian migrants. Like I have my own tour next April. So 7 days, I take ferry, counts and back, and I saw 131 species. It's just okay. We can get 150 or more if the weather is better. And even in autumn, this is another trip report in September. Only 4 days, we can still get 77, a good number. And for the fairy pitta is famous in Hubei, and they breed in Taiwan and still vulnerable. And they come to Taiwan in late April from June. And in Hubei, you will hire a more local guide who used to be hunting the bird, but he turned to guiding this bird. So it's also another highlight of birds in Taiwan, and Hubei will be famous for them. Or sometimes in Yilan, the photographers will feed them. So sometimes we can find them in some photography feeding site. And for the raptor watch, usually autumn is good, but in Taiwan, most of the two species, the Chinese sparrowhawk and the gray-faced buzzard, occupied 98% of the total number of the raptors. And these four and the coming slides are good slides published by the Raptor Research Group of Taiwan. So in autumn, we can find the Chinese sparrowhawk and gray-faced buzzards, osprey, eastern buzzards, and eastern honey buzzard, and hen harrier, and Japanese sparrowhawk, and peregrine falcon, Eurasian kestrel, Eurasian harpy, what's this? I forgot the English common name. And black buzzard, and black baza, and northern sparrowhawk, and Eurasian sparrowhawk, all these birds. So in autumn, it will be good, and the place we see is the Sheding Park in Kendi National Park. So every year, in the Chinese sparrowhawk, we can see range from 16,000 to 270,000, varies a lot between the years. And the time we can see is between mid to late September. So these birds, and when they fly southward, they will concentrate in the tail of Taiwan and fly to Luzon in Philippines to winter. So if you want to see 1,000 and 2,000 and many thousand of birds in one sky, Taiwan is the only place. The other is the gray-faced buzzards. Every year we can count about 23,000 to more than 120,000. So they count in mid-August and October. So, and this is the two birds. So the Chinese sparrowhawk counts earlier, and the gray-faced buzzard counts later. And if the weather comes back, like we had typhoon, we have 2 typhoons last year, last winter, and last autumn. So around the typhoon counts, and the bird, they just take rest. And the gray-faced buzzard, usually they take off in early morning. And the Chinese sparrowhawk, they don't wake up that early. So it's the time of the day and the season is highly variable. And in spring, the raptor doesn't concentrate that much like autumn. But however, we can get more species, but it's more unpredictable. So in Taipei, Guanyinshan is a place, and the local people spend and lots of after watching there. Or in Miaoli, Tongxiao is a place called Linding. Or in Zhanghua, Baguashan and Bagua Raptor Watch, and we have the bird fair there in next month. In Mazu, and every remote island were good for raptor in spring. And because Taiwan is still close the border, so the Taiwanese birds were too boring and we cannot go abroad. So in these 2 years, we try to find some new trips. Like last year, I attend a trip in Nan'ao, and about last week, I visit, and there's a 3 island below Taiwan in the northeast of Taiwan. We call the Kuan-Chieh, whatever. And we just take ferry to there and goes one way and back. And we can find lots of the common birds, the streak shearwater and the brown booby. And the best bird we can for Taiwanese birds are 2 albatrosses, the black-footed and the short-tail. And the short-tail is and the subspecies in the south. So there are some paper indicates the south population could be another new endemic species, endemic to Okinawa area. And the broad spectrum will be common, and in May and August and in summer the smallhouse stone petrel will come. So, and last week we found a new record of Taiwan is the province petrel in this trip. And Kinmen is also a good place for Taiwan birds, but for international birds it depends. And because Kinmen is very close to China, so they share the very similar air fauna with China, like Hong Kong. So in summer, the cuckoos, and which are typical for Taiwanese birds in Taiwan, and we have the blue-tailed bee-eater breed there. In winter, we have some rare birds in East Asia, like a blackstock. And so, and last winter, we have the New Year bird count. It's just like the Christmas bird count in the North American. And all of our team, we count about 140 species in 3 days. So Kinmen is also good for birding in winter. So let me conclude some attractive part of the bird watching in Taiwan is you don't have to worry about any diseases. We have no leeches. Yeah, we have leeches, but it's because most of the time we do roadside birding. So I never get leech when I watch bird. We have no malaria, we have no dengue fever during bird trip. We have dengue fever, but only in cities in winter, and we won't stay there. We have no rabies, we have no tick to worry about. The only problem is the scarpid typhus, or we call typhus fever. It's rare in Lanyu. But Richard Foster and I, we get this before, but we know how to tell if you get this disease. And birding in Taiwan is easy, and because we have no hunting, so birds they don't scare people that much, and we have good driving road, so we can walk along the road. Even you are 70s, you can walk along the road easily, and it's very convenient. This is the map of the 7-Eleven in Taipei City, and this is the map of the telecom coverage in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, you can always get your internet connected, and you can always buy a hot coffee in the convenience store. And it's easy to visit before the COVID-19. Taiwan may become the last country open the border during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we have good public transportation system. So if you watch bird on your own, you can always take the high-speed rail or subway between the airport and the big cities. And we have the very good birding community. And the good thing is we publish the English field guide illustrated. And we have the air fauna published in English. We have a lot of the birding related NGOs in Taiwan. And we have a lot of the bird fairs, including the Daxueshan Bird Race, Taiwan Bird Song, and the Taipei International Birdwatching Fair lasts for 20 years. And we can find some other cool animals if you want, like the Ryukyu flying fox. And if you like to take photo, Taiwan has numerous people taking photo of the birds. And flying to Taiwan from Europe is easy, and from Asia is easier, but it's all before the pandemic. After the pandemic, nobody knows. And the bird guide, this is me, and we are all good eBirders, and we are keen to watch birds even during our casual times. So we are all licensed tour guides in our team. So the take-home message is we have the good diversity of birds, and you can watch birds in Taiwan any time of the year. It's safe. You don't have to worry any disease. Good infrastructure, visa-free, and you can link to other parts of Asia easily. And you can organize if even you have very short time, or you have 2 weeks. It will be good for your first trip to learn the birds in East Asia. So thanks for your attention, and my name is Kuan-Chieh Hung, And please, and we have the Facebook and Instagram and the Twitter, and you can follow us. And thank you. So I go back to the screen. How to?
Just stop sharing. Thank you.
Stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chuck, for the short but very, very informative presentation. Thank you so much. Now we welcome questions. Please show me your hand and you may ask your question. Yes, Francisco. Turn on your mic, please. Yes, thank you.
How expensive would be a 10-day tour?
10-day tour, and I think it all depends on the group size and depend on the group size and depends if you want to visit the remote islands. And you can check my website, have some basic itinerary pack you can refer to that, but it depends. And also in Taiwan, Taiwan is, to be honest, traveling in Taiwan is not very cheap compared to the Southeast Asia or Philippines. Taiwan is about the price maybe is only cheaper than Japan.
What about the countryside? Can you find cheap hotels or camping, even camping?
Camping in Taiwan is difficult, and because Taiwan, the policy in Taiwan is not very friendly to people camping. So, and also in Taiwan, the good thing is the rich people and the poor people doesn't fight them that much. So the poor people is not that poor. So the cost of every part of this island is almost identical.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Yes. We have more questions. We still have time.
Are you open to tourists now? Is Taiwan open to tourists now? Not yet.
Soon. Okay, soon.
And because in Taiwan, and we have less than 1,000 people die during the pandemic. It's a good number, but it become kind of the cage for us. So the public, they don't allow the government to open the borders because if they found somebody die for the COVID-19, they were, the government does very bad job. So I don't know. I don't know when we will open the border. No idea.
Oh,
I guess it'll be very soon because, just like, international visitors, we also want to go out and we don't want to, come back and enjoy 14 days quarantine. We don't like that. So I guess, pretty soon.
Wait, Chuck is a professional bird guide, is that right?
Yeah.
So with no international tourists, are you guiding locals right now?
Guiding locals, I don't do that because in Taiwan we have lots of the NGOs in different cities and countries. So all these local NGOs, they organize the bird walks freely. So sometimes I will become the volunteers. Like I live in Chiayi and the Budai Wetland is in Chiayi. So I will spend, and now I'm planning to become part of the team to protect the wetland.
So you mean you've not been working this past 2 years?
No. Yeah, but I have another, and because I have the master's degree, so I make my living by counting birds in different different ways. Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Ancho.
yeah. For the companion to birders, some wives or some husbands just come for a companion. They are not birders. What other activities could they have? Is there scuba diving, for instance? Are there museums, local tribes to visit? You mentioned one.
Yeah, we have scuba diving, and in Taiwan we have some of the good museum like the National Palace Museum in Taipei, and we have lots of places and where we can have the indigenous people showing their culture to you. So in Taiwan is an island with diversity of the culture. as well. So, but usually, so if you want to organize a trip combining birding and the culture, it's possible. And also, I guided lots of the couples. Usually in the couples, there's only one very interested in bird watching, and the wife or the rest, and they just had no interest. But at least, and in this kind of the tour, they always organize about 7 to 10 days. And that the one they don't watch very seriously, they are still very happy because they can enjoy the landscape, they can enjoy different foods, and we can still show very high diversity of food because in Taiwan, in the short history of this island, we has been colonized by different nations, by Japan and and so we also have very high diversity of the food. Yeah. So
Nice.
they never feel boring.
Excellent. Nice. What about chiggers? You mentioned no ticks. Are there chiggers?
And
You mentioned that there are no ticks.
we have ticks, but because most of our and 95% of the time when we go bird watching, we are walking on the driving road, or we are walking in the trail very well maintained. So I never get ticks when I guiding, and I never get the issues.
There are ticks.
Yeah, but
in the grasses. You don't have to go in the grass.
Yeah, don't have to go into the grass.
Okay, I see. Okay. So you call in the birds. You call them in.
And playing back and play case, yeah, sometimes yes.
You play tape. Okay.
범죄 저지르고 또 다음 역시 피해 보수인
Sorry. Okay, let's go on. Are there more questions? Okay, maybe, Scott. Yes, Scott, please.
Very quick. On one of the slides, you said the Jianjian wetlands.
Jiangjun, yeah.
Jiangjun, where's that located?
And it's located between Tainan and Jiayi. Should I share the screen back?
It's south
That's
to
okay.
Beiman. It's south to Beiman.
South to Beiman.
Close to Beiman.
Okay.
So it's in the north of the Qigu, and in the south of the Jiayi is about these places.
Okay.
It's Jiangjun is the good place, and we found and spotbill sandpiper there before, but not every year. And the Norman green shank is very stable after we found it in winter.
So that was the bird you mentioned, the Norman's green shank.
Norman's green shank, yes.
Thank you.
Scott, you joined Taiwan Birdathon this year, and I will show you Jiangjun.
Okay. Join what this year?
Taiwan Birdathon.
Okay.
It will be in November.
Okay.
Or whenever you have time and you travel to southern Taiwan, you can call me. And because I live in Jiayi and Jiangjun is only 1 hour driving from my place. Yeah.
No, join Taiwan Birdathon. It'd be more fun.
I will put down birdathon. Okay. I never joined before. I don't know about the birdathon. Yeah, it's new for me. Yeah.
Really? Oh, come on. It's been 10 years. My fault. It's definitely my fault. I will inform you this year.
Now I know.
I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
Okay, and good news is that Chuck is our judge at Taiwan Birdathon. Now you know him. All right. Okay. Let's take a group photo first. All right, guys. Okay. So, please turn on your mic. Philip's here. Marty, thank you. Rajendra. Hello, Rajendra. Are you having tea? Hello, Rajendra. Hi, Lei Wing. Good to see you, Rajendra. Hello, Lei Wing.
to see you. Good evening. I'm in the jungles now.
You're in jungle. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, I just checked into the wildlife things.
Lei Win is from Myanmar. Hello, Lei Win. Okay, good to see you. All right, okay. So once again, look at the camera, smile, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's our first group photo.
Okay.
Let's take more questions.
And Victor, I saw somebody asking a question in the Facebook, and it's about the fairy pitta in Yilan. So, and let me talking more about the fairy pitta, because fairy pitta, they are summer breeder. They breed in Taiwan in summer, and we have the national scale survey to evaluate the population trend of the fairy pitta, and actually they are quite common in lower elevation. So in Yilan, it's possible to see, and in Yilan, the reason I mentioned that is because in Taiwan we have lots of the photographers. So in Yilan, there's a place, the local photographers that feed the bird all the time. And so in that place, if the local photographer feed them, and if the birds still breed there, so the chance to see the fairy pitta will be higher than other places.
Okay, thank you. It's great. Fairy pitta. Nice bird. Or you may ask help from Mark. I guess Mark, could you say something more about fairy pitta? Yeah, hello, Mark.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
It's fairy pitta now is
Pitta expert, Mark.
Yeah, not as easy as it used to be. Hushan Dam, that kind of thing. It destroyed a lot of habitat, but it's there. I mean, to be honest, if you really want if you don't have the time to spend a few days trying to connect by yourself, look, you might be lucky. It happens. You go out in the morning, you hear it calling, and 10 minutes later you've seen it. But I think probably the safest way would be to get in touch with the Fairy Pitta Cafe and set up a guide to see it, unless you're in Taiwan and you have the time to go and check it out. But normally, I mean, they've particularly, I guess, the beginning of May, they are very vocal in the morning. Mm-hmm. And they have quite a call. So if you know what you're listening for, you can connect. But once, a little bit, once they're not calling as much, kind of, I think, I'm just trying to think, it's from about mid-May, they don't call as much. Then it starts to get harder to find them. But they're there. I mean, particularly when they're breeding, and you have a nest in a particular area, very often the adults will forage in particular areas. They'll find somewhere that's very rich in earthworms, and if you hang out in that spot, you will see them because they're in and out and in and out. But I mean, I guess like 15 years ago, you basically just had to walk down that little track in Ruben. And I mean, when I first looked for fairy pitta, I think that very first morning that I went out, I ran into 5 different individuals in the space of maybe 700 meters. But that doesn't happen anymore. But
we're sorry for that. Thank you, Mark. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and Yes, Pancho.
Yeah. Has anybody learned to feed pittas? You know, in South America now, this started 10 years ago or 15 years ago. They start feeding them. You send them worms every morning. After 3 months, they are your pets. I don't know if this is if this has taken in actually in the whole Asia, but in South America it has worked out. And there's my question too. Or you make a compost. You know, all the organic material waste, you put it out of a lodge, and pittas come. I don't know if this is a practice that maybe you should learn. Somebody has started in Asia. What about in Taiwan? Hides, compost.
Okay, so it's a quite complex question. And to be simple, there are lots of photographers or birders. They watch a bird through their camera, so they learn birding with camera from photographers. They don't know anything about the bird. So in these cases, in Taiwan, you can find there was always people feeding the bird or using the playback in the wrong way, like they just play the target species their song for more than 1 hour in a very loud, and
that's terrible.
We know it's terrible, but they learn this way. So so also they feed the bird. Also, okay, the feeding in Taiwan is kind of complicated because feeding is nothing legal or illegal in the law of Taiwan. So in the law, there's law and Wildlife Act. There's a statement we can interpret that feeding or playing back is illegal. But at least in this decade, very few people has been fined with the Wildlife Act. And also the feeding in Southeast Asia, what I heard is they feed the bird in the private area. In Taiwan, most of the time we watch bird in the public area. The land is owned by governments. There are national parks, there are forest recreational areas. So in these places, if photographers feed the bird too much, and they will not be happy to let people do that. But in the open area where we have a good number of the breeding endemic, there's no places we can have the private land. And even there are some private land, there's no landowners. They feed the bird, they run in the bird lodge. Oh yes, there's one in Alishan where we look for the Taiwan partridge in the early years. But now in Daxueshan, there's the place, and because so many people feed the partridge there, so the Taiwan partridge become easier. But before that, we have to go to that lodge, and we call it Firefly or Star Watch, Firefly Kuan-Chieh. And the lodge, this place is you have to stay there for 1 night, and then you can use the hide. We have this kind of place, but we don't have this kind of place for pitta. Yeah.
It'll be nice if you have it. If you develop one, it's very nice.
I know, but in Taiwan there are some difficulty for us to do it legally. Now it's kind of the gray area for providing population food for the wildlife.
Yeah.
It might become illegal in the next decade. We don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mark, please.
Actually, we at many years ago, there was a type of investigation into that, and it didn't really, it worked, but it didn't. And the reason was this: there was in the Hubei area, there was a farmer that agreed to try this. And what happened was you had a pair of pitta that was breeding on his land, but you know that they're migratory birds and they're only there for a short time and they're only nesting for a particular time. So they prepared an area where basically it would be like really rich in earthworms. So there was like a spot that the pitta would come to feed, and they did. But the thing is that only lasts for a very short period of time, and then the chicks fledge, and that's it. So we maybe had it going for about 3 weeks. It was, and after that the pitta dispersed, and because like pitta are territorial and there are not very many of them, it's not like you're going to bring in a whole lot of pitta from around there. It would work for a very short time for a particular nest, and then over. We had, I'm aware of, there was like one tour at this is probably going back to about 2007. One tour came through and they had the most fantastic views because the pittas, the two pitta were flying in, picking up worms like 10 meters away and going off and things like that. But, 2 weeks later, it was all over.
Interesting. Because here they come all year long. Is the same two individuals, but they get used to the worms, so they come all year long. They don't disappear. They disappear when they are breeding or when it's very wet, so they can get the worms easy because the earth is wet, so they can dig easily. And when it's dry, it's harder for the pittas to get the worms because they feed on worms. So then they come to the hand feeding, and it's a spectacle. It's very nice. And you can see them easy, most of the species. In the past, it was very difficult to see a species of ant pitta. Now it's very easy.
Yeah. I've been to Colombia. I've been to Costa Rica. I know that it works there. But for feral pitta is a summer visitor to Taiwan. So it's only they show up in a very short period of time. Right. Okay. Thank you, Pancho and Mike.
Mike, and you have to turn on your
microphone. Your mic.
Turn on the mic, Mike.
Yes. Hola, Pancho. Feeding for me is a very controversial topic here. I live in the Philippines. It's a very beautiful country with a high diversity of species. More than 240 species are endemic. But for people who've been here, Mark, Richard, Victor, comparatively, it's so difficult to birdwatch in the Philippines because there's still the culture of hunting and poaching. That's why I discourage people from feeding or even playing playback. Yeah. I don't want my bird watchers to do that because birds get used to humans and then it'll be so easy to catch them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Some people started using bird feeders. For example, I went to Colombia and I was so surprised, like the bird feeders are just in the gardens and there's like 20, 30 species of hummingbirds coming to their gardens. They use that on sunbirds and the sunbirds are not used to it. I also, when I was in Colombia, I wasn't excited to see the hummingbirds because they're just so easy to see. I think you can almost even catch them if you want. But I was told that hummingbirds are so difficult to find in the forest, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it is.
They're always high up in the canopy, so you cannot find them unless you put out feeders.
Yeah, that's right.
In the same way, sunbirds in the Philippines are like that also, but they don't fly as fast, so we get to see them. So I think it depends on the country. But as in South America.
Yes. What I have to say about that is that the feeding thing has improved a lot the deforestation, because the families who were working in chopping down trees and farming, now they have put feeders in their homes, so they don't have to do the hard work of going farming or chopping down trees. It's much better income to have the tourist coming, paying a little fee to see the birds.
Pero what happens now?
还没啊，对。
我问什么时候？
Yeah, right. Thank you for sharing, Pancho. I guess it's a good example in South America. But here in Taiwan, though we don't use feeders, we don't use, feeding, or even, if we don't use playback, still you can see lots of birds. There's no doubt.
I understand.
Yeah.
But this is we can talk. I don't want to take over but it's controversial. As Mike said, it's controversial. But I'm in favor.
It's sensitive, right.
I'm in favor of this because this helps the economy of the local people. That's all I want to say.
They are, different stories.
Right.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. So are there more questions? So, yes, Todd, please.
Yeah, we were talking about the calls of the birds before, especially the pitta, and I was just wondering if there's a season that's good to hear the bird calls, to find the birds by call. Any time of the year that's better to do that than other times of the year, especially the endemics?
Okay. So for endemic, and because in Taiwan, we have very high mountain up to nearly 4,000. So it varies. So like now, from February to March, the birds in the alpine area, they start to breed, and they started to do some pre-mating calls. So now it's a good season. So in terms of the truly endemic bird collecting, spring and even as early as February is good. But usually the traditional and British bird watching tours, they visit Taiwan between late April and early May is because they want the early arrival of fairy pitta. But during that moment, there are some birds like the rooty, some stripe bird like the short-winged flapping thrushes become difficult than now. Now mid-May and mid-March is a very good time for breeding them. Yeah, but it's a trade-off because in northern hemisphere, spring is good in many places. So in terms of the number of the lifer, Taiwan is only 30. It's not a bad number, but it's not the very good number. So I will encourage people, as you have time, if you have meeting in Taiwan or in nearby area, you can visit Taiwan even you have a week, and I can show you 2025 in 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. It's about time, and let's thank Chuck again for the short but very informative presentation. And if you have more questions or you want to come to Taiwan, please contact Chuck. You know his email addresses, you know his website. So just go to him. He'll be very helpful. So thank you very much, Chuck, again, and thank you all of you for joining us. And next week we are going to China. Philip from China will tell us about the birding culture in China and birding in China. So let's look forward to Philip's presentation. And let's take one last group photo because we had Scott Personer joining us and Johnny from Uganda. Let's take one last group photo, right? Okay. Hello, Johnny. Woohoo, Johnny. And Scott Personer. Johnny's not coming. Rajendra? Okay, let's have their names on the screen, okay? Please look at the camera. All right. You smile. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Oh, Scott is here. Wait. Let's try again. Scott. No. Wait. Scott is here. Johnny, come in. Are you coming, Johnny?
All right.
All right,
Sorry.
let's have Scout's person with us. Okay, let's do it again. Okay?
Oh, sorry, everybody.
It's
I have
okay.
been.
Let's say 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. So, thank to Chuck again, and thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Have a nice week,
Thank you, Victor.
everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chuck. Thanks, Victor.
Goodbye and good night. Thank you.